Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Season 4, the Call It Anything podcast. I'm Jack, joined by my guest,
Mr. Solis.
Alright, so we are back. The last time Mr. Solis and I met, this podcast didn't go through its rebrand yet. It was actually nameless, and we were covering Money in the Bank to start off the season, just like the year before, but we are back here the beginning of August now. How have you been, sir, in that time?
Oh, it's been busy, good sir. We've got school starting 1 week from now. First day of school, so we're getting ready. Teachers came back officially yesterday. And, all full steam ahead. I had one last trip in the summer. I went to go see my brother in Idaho. Jack, I think you had a pretty eventful weekend.
Yeah, I had quite the eventful weekend. Quite the eventful month as well. I think the last time you and I met for an episode, I don't think it was at the beginning of July? Yeah, right?
What are you talking about?
The last time you and I met for Money in the Bank, right? Money in the Bank was at the start of July?
Oh, it certainly was, yes.
Yeah, so in that time, at the end of the month, I went to a concert, Paramore's concert at the Forum.
Oh my.
And then this Saturday, my family and I all took a trip down to Anaheim to go see in concert NF, an artist that we like. And then on Sunday, I went to go see another concert of a K-pop group I like called Idol.
Oh,
So,
wow.
3 concerts in the span of the last time we met, and 2 of them back to back, which is why I told you I ended up having to catch Summerslam on Monday.
Oh my. So yeah, because I went to see my brother this weekend. I didn't see it live. I watched it on my way home on Sunday.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be able to get it in on Sunday, but we were pretty busy on Sunday. And it was funny because as we were on the way making our drive to SummerSlam started, and Ricardo asked me, if we were going to watch along, and I told him, hey, put it on, I'll watch along, but the moment, I got to go to my concert, I'll leave, I'll catch whatever I can. And so, I think I got, the first hour in on SummerSlam.
Oh, right on.
But yeah, after that, it was there was no avoiding spoilers, as always, with social media. And it was funny because we'll come to learn what it was, but Ricardo ended up giving me a scare because he ended up sending me a message saying something like, oh, that was bad, or that looked bad, or something. And I thought someone got injured. So I went to go look.
No.
I went to go look at what it was happening, and that's when I saw the news of was probably my favorite moment of the night, which you can take a guess, but we'll get into that later.
I'm a pretty bright guy, Jack. I think I have a good shot at guessing exactly what was spoiled for you that you weren't even mad about.
Yeah, but that was my pretty eventful weekend of getting back, watching all that. And then on Monday, yesterday, that's when I caught SummerSlam. I was watching it, had it in the background while I was doing some stuff, but was still paying attention to a majority of the matches, so I can give my breakdown on what I liked, what I didn't, some spots I loved from each match. I made sure to be prepared.
Right on. Sounds good. You know what, too, Jack? I got to take you up on the episode on your experience watching the Oppenheimer movie. I saw that this weekend, and I thought, hey, I got to hear what Jack has to say about that.
Oh, yeah. We had a fun time talking about that movie, and Gio and I ended up doing a part 2 for it where we just talked even more about it, just talking about what we enjoyed. It was something we explained in our intro episode for this season. We're taking a new approach where, if certain members aren't as available, we've opened the option to, continue episodes on without them. So Dominic was there for part 1, but he was busy afterwards and couldn't stay. So he said it was fine for Gio and I to continue a part 2. But so part 1 has Dom's input on the movie, and then part 2 was just Gio and I.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, we really enjoyed that movie. But getting right into the event, SummerSlam was this weekend. Obviously, the big the second biggest pay-per-view that WWE does, right behind WrestleMania. And there was a lot going into this, a lot of matches. I don't know how many we saw coming when it came to Money in the Bank, but I'm sure you can look back at Money in the Bank episode and see we maybe saw some of these coming. Like, I'm pretty sure we talked about Cody versus Brock 3 happening on this show. But going into it, sir, what were sort of your thoughts and expectations?
Being in Idaho, visiting my brother, not watching it live, I was also going to do everything I could to avoid the spoilers, right? Sunday comes along, I got my flight, I'm headed home, and I find myself on Instagram a time or two just by force of habit, right? But I think it's interesting that I was able to sneak in, respond to a few messages, actually not have it spoiled for me. And you know what's funny, Jack? I think the revelation that I was in and out, nothing was spoiled for me, kind of spoiled for me how the evening went. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No news is a sort of news, you know?
Yeah. I definitely felt like I definitely feel the same way, where I was especially because during both concerts I found myself like there was a lot of pastime, especially for the one on Sunday, because there wasn't any opening act for like a lot of when K-pop groups do their concerts, they don't usually have opening acts. So I found myself sitting there for a while and I couldn't help myself but go on social media. But similarly, I didn't see like any sort of pages or anybody really posting any sort of big news. So I thought to myself, well, other than the thing that Ricardo spoiled for me, not a lot must have happened at the show, at least anything big.
Yeah. I think going into the event, I think what I was most excited about was, honestly, probably Cody Brock. The third one, right? We're all along for the ride for Cody's story, right? Oh, you know what? Balor Rollins. I was hook, line, and sinker by that. I'm like, oh boy. I was like, I think really excited to see that.
Yeah. I think I was most excited for Gunther versus McIntyre and Rollins Balor as well, especially as we'll get later into the match, the sort of story they started telling. Yeah, so some real good stuff. But starting off the night, we started off with Logan Paul versus Ricochet.
And just to give you some context, Jack, I am in the Idaho Boise airport, waiting for my flight to take off, watching it at the gate.
All right. Yeah, I was in the car watching this one with Ricardo. What were your thoughts on this match, sir?
I think this match going into it was, probably the best Ricochet's looked in a minute. It looks like he has purpose. He's sort of the more experienced of the two competitors, right, against Logan Paul. And their rivalry goes all the way back to Royal Rumble, trying to one-up each other there. And then they see each other and run into each other at Money in the Bank, right, really setting up this fight.
Yeah, definitely. And similarly, I had the same thought where I was like, Ricochet arguably looks as best as he has than, we've seen him before in this moment. They really let him show off a lot. And, I going into it, I was thinking, I expected a pretty good match because I knew, given their work, I knew Ricochet could probably get a lot out of Logan Paul in this match.
I expected a good match, too. I did not expect as long a match as we got.
Very true, yeah. I wasn't expecting how long it went either. I'm trying to think of some of the spots. I will say one thing I will say that I was waiting for throughout the match was because I can't remember if I remember seeing it somewhere, but I thought I remember hearing them say something that was like very reminiscent of like referencing the Royal Rumble moment where they were like they made a viral moment. So throughout this match, I was definitely like waiting to see what they would do that could be on the level of either the Rumble moment or even what happened at Money in the Bank, even though that wasn't planned. I was like, I wonder what they're gonna do, and a part of me wants to feel like they didn't do anything that was like kind of similar to those two pay-per-views.
I would agree with you, save for the finish. And that would be a viral moment for reasons that differ from Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank.
Yeah, true. But any spots that stood out for you?
The Hogan Paul
Oh,
is like reference to Hulk Hogan, which you're like, hey, either someone didn't get to him the memo, or he's got the freedom and creative liberty to reference Hulk Hogan.
yeah. And then there was also Ricochet doing I think. Wait, was it this spot? He do a spot of the People's Elbow.
Well, in response, I think, to the Hogan Paul, which was his big boot leg drop, Logan Paul style. Right, Ricochet responded with something that started off like a People's Elbow, but as Corey Graves expertly coined it, it was like the People's Moonsault.
Yeah, there was that, and then there was the spot where they were referencing the Money in the Bank spot where they were trying to do a Spanish fly off the apron, and they tried to land on their feet, but it is a bit awkward, but they do their best to quickly make up for it and make it look smooth in a sense.
Yeah, and commentary I think did a good job of covering it.
Yeah, but the big finish of the match is the ref gets sort of distracted a bit, and that's when we see a member of I guess Logan Paul's podcast, or maybe his friends, whatever. He sneaks him the brass knuckles, and the ref is busy checking on Ricochet. And this is the part that kind of confused me. He hits Ricochet, and I was wondering where exactly was the ref looking to not have seen it, because it was like right in the middle of the ring. But he hits him with the brass knucks, and I like how I think it was Michael Cole on commentary. He references not only does he have like the metal in his hand or whatever, but he now uses brass knucks along with it, so like it really sells that it was a knockout blow to Ricochet.
I agree. I mean, you went into tonight knowing Logan Paul had to win. He's lost some big profile matches, and he's been on a losing streak since like last SummerSlam,
Yeah.
And so this was a big win, but you know what? I'm all right with him stealing it like he did.
Yeah,
dastardly guy.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that Logan Paul has now been like involved with WWE since like all the way back at like WrestleMania 37. You remember where he was involved in the the Sammy and KO feud?
Yes, my goodness.
Yeah, and then obviously, what was sort of, I guess you could say, sort of a main like point of the feud, we see Logan Paul reveling in the fact that Ricochet's significant other, Samantha Irving, the ring announcer, has to announce that he's the winner over Ricochet, and he tries to get her again. I just like how they pan to her and she has like this annoyed face just looking at him.
Corey Graves, like I don't know if you'd call it hit or miss, but he's on it, like telling Michael Cole how she looks like she's ready to switch sides. She's ready to jump on the Logan Paul hype train. And Michael Cole's like, what are you on? She's like, she looks dissatisfied. And you're like, what does that even mean? She's wearing yellow like Logan Paul's wearing yellow. She ain't wearing colors that Ricochet's wearing. And he's like, what's the matter with you?
Yeah, no, I said the same thing to Ricky when we were watching it together. I was like, what is this man, Corey Graves, on? And then there was like one part where he was like, look, she has a look of disappointment. I know that feeling all too well. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean?
He burnt himself.
Oh, man. But a pretty fun opener to the night, I would say.
I agree.
And straight from there, we get into what should be another fun match going in. We got Cody versus Brock 3. Sir.
With a very interesting promo package before it, right?
I was just about to ask you, were you as confused by the promo package as I was?
I wasn't confused as much as I was, like, really surprised by, like, how much Cody has had to do to build this feud up himself? Because Brock says nothing. He shares no words. And I think even more interesting is they stylized the video clip so that Cody's voice is like in isolation of like the ambient noise. And I go, was that a trick to hide the crowd response, or perhaps lack thereof?
Yeah, I say I was very confused by the promo package solely because of the music choice. I was so caught off guard by it. I was like, "What is this?" And then it was funny because I even saw like someone like talking about it online, and they were like, "This video package makes it seem like Brock murdered Cody." And then someone goes, "Well, if you take into account the previous two matches, he may as well have murdered Cody."
And it's funny. Like I'm definitely like the package definitely reminded me too that I didn't enjoy either match before now, right? So like it's really setting me up for something. I'm like, oh yeah, that shouldn't have main evented Backlash, and oh yeah, we got that silly finish at what was it, Night of Champions or Money in the Bank, where he doesn't tap, he passes out. I'm like, yeah, that was cringe.
I think that was Night of Champions, but I'm not too sure.
But so here we are. It's the hat trick, and I'm interested, Jack, to see what they do because we were also supposed to get a stipulation, and we didn't.
Yeah, I was confused by that too because they mentioned something about like a stipulation that hasn't been seen in a while, and so like people started speculating. And I think the funniest thing I have to mention, I think the funniest thing is someone speculating and wondering if WWE of all companies and Brock Lesnar of all wrestlers was going to do a dog collar match with Cody.
Or a bull rope match, something along the lines of the Rhodes family history.
Yeah. But so, we get into this match, and it's kind of, it starts how, Brock Lesnar matches start, which is, it's straight go from the get-go, it's like they're moving and all that. You got them hitting all their moves already at some point, like Cody was hitting those disaster kicks and trying to hit the Cody cutter and all that.
I like, how Brock's going to spam the suplexes, right? The German suplexes. I like Cody's like approach to doing the same with his like equivalent move.
Yeah. Like I remember I think he hit like two of the disaster kicks off the start. And Ricardo was like, they're already spamming the moves. I'm like, my guy, have you not been watching Brock Lesnar matches for the past, 7 years? This is what you expect. Move spamming within the very beginning of it. But I like the what was it? When they took things, to the outside, I really liked how brutal it got there. We obviously saw, Cody not only get an F5 onto the floor, but he beats the count of 9, but then he gets a second one through the announce table. And I like the sort of visual that he lands on it, bounces up a bit, and then when he lands back down, the table just completely shatters beneath him. So it's like he had to deal with 2 impacts from the F5.
Yeah, it was so tiny, Jack. I don't know if you noticed. And now I'm on the plane, by the way. We headed home. But Brock, when we're spamming this, he's trying to win by count out, right? And he's yelling at Cody to stay down and, do the smart thing, right? And just stay down and take the 10 count. The second or third one, when he hits the F5, to make the count last longer, he doesn't go directly in the ring. He goes around the ring about a quarter of the way and in. So I don't know. I think it was for anyone who wondered, how did Cody get back in? He actually got a lot of recovery time because Brock took a longer way to get in the ring and slowed the ref. He wasn't able to start counting until it's like delaying a pinfall, I think. And I'm like, oh man, that man knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I didn't notice that actually. Wow. But yeah, we see Cody get back in again to break the 10 count. And we see, a spot where Brock's trying to German suplex him, and that's when the turnbuckle pad gets ripped off, very reminiscent of the Backlash match, I believe. And then the confusing part of it all is the part where Cody uses the steel steps and hits Lesnar with them, and everyone was like, did they announce this was no DQ? Why is that not a DQ?
And my mind immediately went to, if you hit him with any other part of the ring, like the post, the apron, I'm like, it's fine. So, like, maybe it's fine.
Yeah, I was a bit confused by their sort of logic there, but he gets away with it. He hits the disaster kicks and a Cody cutter, but it still doesn't take down Brock. And then we see Brock get him into a Kimura, the same one that the same move that caused Rhodes injury in the storyline. And this time we find that we see Cody finally able to break it with a rope break, and then that's when Brock collides with the turnbuckle again. This time, without the pad, and that's when he gets out of the F5 and hits 3 crossroads, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm. And he's real close to the ropes. It's making me nervous, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the funniest part is that like he's doing those crossroads, and then out of nowhere he gets him up for the third one, and because of the way the camera language, you see somehow Brock's shorts busted open. Like
it's weird. Yeah, I noticed that too. And you're like, we've done so little. What the heck happened to his shorts?
Yeah, but the 3 crossroads are able to put Brock down, and we get this spot where after the match, Lesnar, embraces Cody. He even shakes his hand, and he raises his hand to like each direction of the crowd for them to cheer him on.
It's one of the most surprising events of the night, if not the match, right? It's like it's not the F5 outside, and it's not tearing his pants. It's like the hug, and you're like, wow, that man doesn't hug a lot of people on screen. This is something else. And, to your point earlier about the interesting music, right? The music now kind of fits. It's a little more foreboding, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and, it's always been said, and, like, this is a big example of it based on his actions after the match, but, like many people have said in the past, if Brock likes you, he'll do his best to put you over, and, it's clear he sees a lot in Cody to do all this for him after their trilogy of matches.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think, I would love to hear your thoughts. I think this is definitely the best of the 3.
I definitely feel the same way. Especially because I remember the second one being a bit of a letdown, and the first one, I feel like the first one is definitely carried a lot by the fact that Brock got busted open in that crazy spot.
Remember when his blood just stopped because he told it to?
Oh, man. Brock Lesnar is a different beast. But yeah, pretty good match, and so far we start off with 2 pretty great matches. But we move on to the SummerSlam Battle Royale, and sir, our favorite thing is back, advertising.
And this was interesting, Jack, because we're okay again with Macho Man. You're like, okay, I'm down. This is a little weird, right?
Yeah, it was funny because obviously it's a sponsored battle royale and all that, but similarly, a lot of people were like, I wonder what's like the point of this, especially because in regards to like certain matches like Becky and Trish and Rhea having a defense, those 2 being left off of SummerSlam, a lot of people were questioning, why was this on? But the big thing is it's sponsored, obviously, and also it serves a big purpose as only about like I think 3 people get an entrance, and who's one of them? LA Knight.
Yes, he does. A huge reaction.
Yeah.
He's also on like a commercial that comes out later with Bianca Belair. They're in the Slim Jim colors, yelling at some school teacher, I think, about how uncool he is and how he should slap into a Slim Jim.
Oh, man. It was funny because we were still on the way to the show, so I was still watching this with Ricardo, and he was like, what does the winner even get? Or like, what's going to happen for whoever wins this? And I'm like, oh, don't you know? Whoever wins this, they're going to get into a Macho Man cosplay.
Oh, my. Was the brand deal, was like the commercial deal a part of the the victory? How did they film that so quickly?
Yeah, I saw people saying that too. They were like, how'd they film that so quickly?
That's very funny.
But obviously the main the main people highlighted throughout this battle royale are obviously LA Knight. Omos gets a bit of highlights, and then we see like little story bits getting highlighted, such as Tommaso Ciampa and Bronson Reed and their mini feud, Santos Escobar and Austin Theory.
I was the most excited to see Chad Gable get like a big old spotlight on him.
Yeah, especially because he had a big highlight on Raw, I believe it was, against Gunther in a IC title match. And they're clearly showing that they were impressed by that match because Gable and Otis, they were really going at it with Vinci and Kaiser in this match, signaling that like we could see a feud between Alpha Academy and Imperium. Here's the.
Thank you.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember like what were some other story points in this match. I think Cross and Styles had a bit of a thing going on.
Yeah, they've had a thing going on with all of Cross's hair. The Miz and Grayson Waller kind of did the old Spider-Man meme because they're so similar in, character and aesthetic, outrageous, full of themselves. And they kind of align with each other for 2 seconds.
Yeah. And then, of course, like I said, the big highlight of this match is LA Knight getting a bunch of, getting a bunch of shine in this,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he ends up winning it by sending Sheamus over. And I also forgot to mention there was the big old spot where everyone gangs up on Omos and eliminates him.
He looked good. Like, walking out to the ring, just walking out to the ring, Jack. Like, I don't know, you and me have seen some big men look awkward just walking.
Yeah.
He hits the best chokeslam I've seen in a long time on Chad Gable. He eliminated JD McDonough and Riddle at the same time and Butch by lifting them off their feet over his shoulders and just chucking them. He looked good here.
Yeah, he looked real good here, and
but they chucked him out.
Yeah, they did the spot that what he's needed for. Everyone eliminate the big man all at once.
Yeah,
but LA Knight gets his win. Crowd goes crazy. They love it.
They sure do.
Yeah. Pretty decent battle royale, But
yeah.
I think it's at this point, before we get into like the later match, I think like with this battle royale and like maybe the next match, it seemed like a bit of a cool off from the first 2 matches.
Oh, I agree. And when you talk about like Trish and Becky getting like pushed off the card, or were they ever supposed to be on the card? You can also think of the United States Championship match that's happening on Friday as possibly one that should have happened this week. And then Rhea doesn't have a match at all, right?
Yeah.
I'm at odds with myself because if like it doesn't happen on this night and it happens on Raw, then it goes from just another match on SummerSlam to like the main event of SmackDown or Raw,
Yeah.
So it's, and I think Triple H is definitely really prioritizing like making the TV shows must see,
Yeah, definitely.
And golly, I'm grateful we don't have like a 6-hour SummerSlam to cover.
Yeah, no lie. And I think it also benefits just slightly a little so that like, you're not having to like really figure out how to fit all these people on one card, The only, I guess the only sort of issue I have with it is that, when it comes to TV matches, I just hate that, like, they have to deal with the restrictions of time, commercials, all this stuff sort of interfering. Especially when we've seen so often that, like, a lot of times, like, on the day of the show, stuff will get cut for time and all that, So
yes.
It just makes you a bit weary, but at the same time, like you said, it makes, watching the main shows, it gives people a reason to, watch those main shows more, it's something like similar with AEW, you know, where they have so many different title defenses on at times, you know, or certain big matches happening on big Dynamite cards or Collision or even Rampage sometimes that you're like, well, hey, you know, anything can happen. I gotta tune in, you know.
This is true.
They've definitely been doing that, especially with Raw. I've seen that, like, a lot of people have really been enjoying a lot of the different either tag title or IC title defenses that they do on Raw from time to time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely working because it gets people interested, and then the next time it happens, they're like, oh, well, I got to tune in to see this now.
I think we're all patiently waiting for Austin Theory to give up the title he's done nothing with. Give it to somebody who's going to do something with it. Hey, did you notice Santos Escobar's shirt?
I didn't.
He had a shirt on that said DWO.
Huh.
I paused it, rewound it. I was like, did I see that right? And what the heck does D stand for? D, sir, stands for Detroit. We got a glimpse of his shirt just clear enough after eliminating Austin Theory. And I guess that's something they're doing with live events. Detroit World Order.
Well, that's basically free money right there.
Oh, my.
That's basically free money right there. Just any city you go to, print those shirts with the city name.
And how interesting is it that Los Angeles is still going to be the LWO?
Yeah. I know AEW does something similar where, well, I don't know if they do it for every show, but I know they've done it, I think, in Canada and Chicago, where it's like the AEW logo, and then like it was the Chicago flag or the Canadian flag sort of like accented on the logo.
Yeah.
They know how to make free money. But moving on to the next match, we have Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler in an MMA rules match.
Mm-hmm.
Which I will say, one thing I saw that someone said as far as the live crowd for this match, they were a bit confused because they didn't explain the rules of the match. Like,
isn't that funny? Under Vince McMahon, right? You think of any big stipulation match, they plaster the screen with the rules. Mike Rowe is talking out loud about every word, like reading it word for word, right?
Yeah.
And it's real like hitting you over the head with it. This one, a little more traditionally like an MMA match, the ref is the only one who says the rules to the competitors loud enough for us to hear on TV. We could have mic'd up the ref.
Yeah, but so basically it can only be won via knockout, submission, or referee stoppage. And it plays off the fact that both women are former MMA, sort of, they're experiencing MMA, you know? Yep. What do you think of this match going into it, sir?
Going into it, you know, I'm rooting for Shayna, right? And I just know a little bit about Ronda's future with the company. And I'm like, do the right thing, put over Shayna, give Shayna the rub. A lot of Shayna fans, and especially that of her NXT time, have really been excited to see like this much of her, right?
Yeah.
And in a match like this, I mean, maybe it should have been in a fight pit so people can naturally kind of get the gist of what's going to happen.
Yeah. But they definitely put that on display, you know, with their hip tosses and their attempts at submissions and, you know, all the different body shots. You know, they were going at it for a bit. There was a real, like, hard kick from Baszler that she landed on Rousey that was pretty good.
I get, you know, besides the fact that the crowd didn't know the rules, I also got the sense that they weren't into this.
Yeah, I noticed that a bit too, and it was definitely... It definitely was reminiscent of... what's it called? How it seems a lot of the crowds react to the ROH Pure title matches.
Yes, I was just about to say Shibata.
Yeah, it definitely was reminiscent of that to me, where it's like you probably have to be like, you're like, it fulfills like a certain niche in a way, you know.
Yeah,
because I typically enjoy a lot of the ROH Pure matches, like you know, Shibata wrestled Daniel Garcia and Ray Moriarty in some pretty good ones that I really liked, but this one felt like a similar way where like the crowd just wasn't too into it, and a part of me feels like it's because of the stipulation that they weren't too into it, you know?
And there was like there's a part of the match that you think that they designed to like a spot to really get the crowd into this, and it fell flat on its face. And so there's a part where the ref pauses the fight so that Shayna can get looked at by doctors. And I'm like, what are we doing? I forget what happened to her that they think, like, you better let somebody look at you, right? And Ronda's there yelling, hey, if she needs help, she's done. You know? Like, it was, like, I don't know. Read the room, you wouldn't have done it if you saw, like, the writing on the wall. But then Ronda comes after those doctors, just chucks them, you know? And I thought that was a part where everyone was supposed to go, my girl, she's so strong, and she doesn't care. She's a female Stone Cold. But they just didn't care.
Oh, man. Yeah. And then it's like, you know, you get Baszler choking out Ronda for the win after all that. And, you know, people are happy that Baszler's going to be getting pushed, but at the same time, I don't know. It to me, it's sort of another example of like whenever they try and do like these sort of like incorporating like shoot sports into, you know, wrestling style, it just never really works out. And you know, we referenced the fight pit earlier, but like think back to like the different fight pit matches, and like it's supposed to be like that style, but it's never like fully in that direction. I mean, the first one had Matt Riddle flying off the top of the cage, and that you're not gonna see that in any sort of MMA fight, you know?
Right.
Like I think the fight pit does it well because it mixes it. Whereas like when they do matches like this, where it's supposed to be like straight up that style, I don't think it just ever translates well, especially with the crowd.
I think this match also needed the time and build that they were going to give it if it wasn't like hot shotted. You know, I think this was originally going to get more time, you know, more storytelling development, so that, you know, they started off as tag champs. I think they were going to have a longer run. Then the turn would have been more meaningful, and the match would have been more heated. But, you know, we got what we got. And I'm looking, you know, here's hoping that Baszler kills more people on TV, like, more quickly, you know?
Yeah.
So people figure out what the heck she's doing.
Yeah, definitely. But moving on to our next match, it is the Intercontinental Championship on the line. Champion Gunther defending against Drew McIntyre.
By now, Jack, I am at the Salt Lake City airport waiting for my second flight, eagerly awaiting the flight home, right? And yeah, I'm like, you know what? It's a Gunther match. I need a big burger in my hand. I need to eat meat while I watch this meat-slapping affair.
Yeah, for me, sadly, this was the point where I had to stop watching because we had arrived at the venue. So I had to watch it later on, but I was still very much excited, and I was very disappointed in the fact that I had to miss watching it live, especially because I was like, I know it's going to be difficult to avoid spoilers, but expectations for me were very high going into this match because I know what these two men are capable of, and I know they were going to be given the time to, you know, hopefully fulfill those expectations.
Mm-hmm. We are we're about 1 month away from Gunther becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion ever. And I think it's so funny, Jack. I think it's so wild that in 2023, the answer to that trivia question is still the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, it is absolutely wild. Like, in my mind, if I was to be asked that, it's like, you would assume they would have, like, done it with like Jericho, maybe, you know, given how much he was affiliated with the IC title, or, you know, I'm trying to think of some different like IC champions that like easily could have done it, especially because when you look at Jericho and a lot of times he was holding that IC title, it was like, you know, he was definitely like a workhorse during that era where he could have gone that many days and had, you know, multiple compelling defenses after another. But it's
But you know who actually should have broken that record, right?
Who?
Santino Marella had a countdown and everything. Should have been him.
Oh man. But Gunther is almost there, and I'm excited for it. And it's funny how much they seem to be hyping it up themselves. Like I think even on like commentary, you heard like Michael Cole mentioning it a lot, like saying that, it's something like historic, and they mentioned that he's the longest reigning like IC champion of like the modern era, I think he said, or like at least the current
Of the
era.
21st century.
Yeah. So.
And I also appreciate commentary reminding us that not only is Drew a former Intercontinental Champion, but it's been like 15 years since he held it.
Yeah, I noticed they mentioned that too. And I like how they mentioned that, like, this ain't the same Drew McIntyre who held that title. He's much bigger and all that, he's more experienced.
Hey, and it's such a wild fact that I'm tempted to say it's fake or, made up. But they said this was the first time in both men's careers that they were one-on-one against each other. I'm like, how? How even?
A part of me feels like that could have happened, like maybe on the independent somewhere, but then a part of me also remembers McIntyre came back in 2019, and it's not to say that Gunther Walter hasn't been wrestling for a while, but he really started making his break on the independents like around that era.
Yes, I think they maybe just missed each other, so it's just incredible that we got this first time ever match, one-on-one. These guys put on what may be named the match of the year at WrestleMania with Sheamus.
Yeah, I'm looking into it, and yeah, as far as I can see, the two have not fought one-on-one anywhere.
Crazy.
Yeah, very, very, interesting fact. But what were your thoughts on the match, sir?
Oh, it was good. It was hard hitting. It was exactly what it needed to be. You and I talked about Deadlock, a podcast that you've heard about, and I've listened to a lot this summer. And I heard James talk about Gunther in 2K23. He goes, "Yo, you can. What did he say? He says, if you do a chop with Gunther, the guy takes a bump. Like most chops, they just sort of, push him back. He's like, people fall down to his chops."
Oh man, yeah. Those chops, man. I like the way that like they reference at times that like it just echoes at times.
Yes.
But it was a pretty good back and forth between the two. There was even a spot where McIntyre like took a power bomb and then went out of it and landed one of his own, and then like really signaling just how strong Gunther is. He hits the Future Shock DDT right after it, to like
sure
like
does.
He's doing so much to try and keep him down.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, sir, there's 2 minutes on this episode.
Oh my!
That is on me. I wasn't paying attention to the clock.
That's just fine and dandy.
I'll close out here. We'll continue talking about this match because there's definitely a lot to talk about in this match.
I like the canon that they started to fight in this episode, and they're going to be spilling into the next episode with their violence.
That's what you got to expect with Gunther at this point in his matches. He either destroys someone in less than 10 minutes or it's a long affair of just pure violence.
Hey, and when we come back for episode 2, I want you to tell me what you think the match of the night was.
All right, for sure. Thank you all for joining for this episode. Tune into part 2.